Thank you very much, Dr. Juan Camilo. Now, Gabriel Urbano is going to be with us. He has a master's on development from Javeriana University. He is now the director for the Solidarity Fund that works in Montes de Maria. He has worked several years with different communities, indigenous communities, and agrarian development. You're welcome. Thank you very much. I have a presentation and some slides which I'm going to use along my presentation. Very good afternoon for all of you. I want to express my gratitude for the invitation from National University, from the Swiss Embassy, Land Restitution Office and Unit. Thank you very much for your invitation. This effort to reflect and exchange our experiences is related to the effort from academia and different social organizations, from different farmer organizations, black communities and indigenous communities. They have worked very hard on getting involved in the negotiations with the guerrilla groups. They are very much aware of the fact that Colombia is going through a very special juncture where many things are going to be defined. All the cards seem to be on the table, and there seems to be an agreement between different social groups, big entrepreneurs, and even media groups. They seem to agree that we need to commit to the rural area. There is a historical debt that we have to pay off with our rural areas. Here in Colombia, there is a lot of uncertainty. Even after the signing of the agreement, we have to start thinking about the present and future of the country, especially the rural areas and the communities that inhabit those areas. We have elements, we have things to be optimistic about, but there are also realities that indicate that pessimism is in order to negotiations with the guerrilla groups. It seems to be just one strategy to implement models that have destroyed lives and cultures. What has happened in Colombia during the last few decades is a very violent and random reconfiguration of rural areas. This has a consequence on urban areas that has made even deeper conflicts related to land, and conflicts that cause the impoverishment of the community. This meaning that the balance between ethnic communities and rural communities is not favorable to them. It's more favorable to urban areas. So the question that I have for this panel is, what structural elements do we have to consider in order to build a new rural country? One of the aspects is the generation of conditions in order to have war, but not only war, also rural and agrarian policies to work out for the different communities. Montes de Maria, which is the area where I work, that's the territory that I have been working on during the last few years. What has happened there is that for a sustainable peace, we need to change the conflicts related to the implementation of a rural and agrarian policy implementation. I'm talking about a land restitution policy and agrarian policy. During the 18th, 19th, and 20th century, Monte de Maria, based on the conflicts between the different rural communities, the lands were not productive, and we also generated an export model of sugar cane and other products which were not very successful. Rice was also the main product for one of the export efforts. This territory configuration allowed the concentration of land which was used for cattle, with an expansion of the agricultural borders, which also made sure that the native vegetation was destroyed. There was also the presence of indigenous and black communities dedicated to the production of agrarian products, cattle, fishing, to the inequality in terms of land distribution during the last few years, along with the high demand for land, originated very strong agrarian population movements, and this caused the loss of 73,000 hectares of land, and this turned this area into a very important player in terms of agrarian production. The people who were able to get property of this land, they became very important actors in the agrarian production in the country. They are very big players in the region in terms of production, contributing not only to the sustainability of the families, also changing the way they live and what they eat. This reality in Montes de Maria is the same in different rural areas in the country. Different assessments show how important ethnic groups are for the country and how they have been important in terms of production of about 65% of the food that we consume as a country. Furthermore, about 60% of the cattle production, this shows that they are very models for production. This is very important to highlight because ethnic and agrarian communities, when we talk about biodiversity in the country, they are not related to a government implementation of programs. They have been very big players because they have been very careful about the production of their agrarian products that have enabled them to achieve the results that they have been able to get. So we're talking about bringing the family, agrarian family, into the production system, Mingas, Chagua, democratic practices in terms of land access, when we talk about enjoying resources such as water, exchanging knowledge, ecologic production, the development of plantation technologies, the handling of seeds, and the handling of all natural resources in general, as well as marketing and commercialization techniques. They have been based on the big knowledge that all these communities have shared from generation to generation. Something that we want to highlight here is that the production techniques that we have had in these areas are very much related to the culture, to the values, to the construction of society, to the social values that these people share. And this is a very important message these people are sending to the rest of the Colombian society. And this is the people we have a historic debt with. These territories are very much affected by the conflict during the last 2 decades. Talking about Montes de Maria, these territory constructions which enable the communities, ethnic communities and agrarian communities to position themselves, these same communities are being very much destroyed by conflict and war. Montes de Maria, talking about Montes de Maria to illustrate these conflicts related to rural development that have to be changed to have a sustainable peace. I'm going to show you some maps put together by Cali University's social studies schools. So here we have some indigenous population. A very big portion of the territory is inhabited by them, and these communities are now getting stronger through the support that they're getting in their different centers. And then we have all these agrarian territories, which are a little bit more difficult to identify, but we're talking about Montes de Maria. For those of you who do not know, this is in the Caribbean area of our country in the north. So we're talking about two different departments, Bolivar and Sucre. Montes de Maria also has an environmental outlook that has enabled them to be very important, as they have water resources, they have flora and wildlife reservations, they have an area that has been affected by production activities such as cattle and agrarian activities to the north, and we have water resources down to the south. In blue, you can see that they have a very rich access to water. This map shows you soil. Most of the soil is protected by reservations. That's the gray part in the middle. That's tropical forest that has been degrading itself, but that's a reservation that's protected. And then we have an agrarian culture or use of the soil, which has been developed by the agrarian community during the last few years. And we have a smaller piece that is being used by cattle and commercial reforestation. This map shows you what's happening right now. Green is what is being used for cattle, and the brown patches or the orange patches show you the agrarian activities taking place there. And there are some plantations, palm plantations, oil palm plantations, and wood trees, which are being used in the area where there's been less displacement. So where we've had displacement, we've had the implementation of great or big agro-industrial projects, and this happened when the conflict picked, and this has not anything to do with the population there. This has to do with the armed conflict. Then we have hydrocarbons and mining maps. This is an area where mining has moved forward. Nevertheless, it's not so big. We have identified some titles that have been granted to some companies. Hocol Pacific, they have some presence there, including Ecopetrol. So what we can see here is a conflict in terms of soil use, where agrarian communities and ethnic communities are not being helped by the situation. So this conflict, armed conflict, is generating displacement in terms of territory and water. These two resources are very important for the agrarian communities. Illegal purchase of land, illegal accumulation of water surfaces, resettlement of communities, contamination of water sources, and the loss of territory for agrarian and ethnic communities. Those are the biggest problems. So now, how do we address this within a context of sustainable peace building and economic stability? So some of the agreements or reflections that I have here for you, we have produced them in conjunction with the community in the region, and we also have some consultation with these communities, trying to talk to them in order to guarantee a sustainable peace. So first of all, there is a need to acknowledge these conflicts and these problems. not only the social organizations have been making these problems visible, so we need to acknowledge that these conflicts are there, and we need to do this from the standpoint of the government and local governments, the victims and restitution units, offices. The public sector needs to acknowledge that this is going on, as well as the private sector, because they are very much causing some of these problems. So first of all, we need to acknowledge that these conflicts are there, and that's a very good start point. And now the people who are demanding to make these problems visible are the communities, civilians. Second, we need to acknowledge the models, the production models that are happening here, and how they contribute to the development of the country. As I told you before, amidst all this adversity, these production unities, they are part of the culture and the identity of the people there. So acknowledging this has to do with acknowledging the complexity of the agrarian activities, and we need the support from the government for these production models. If we do this, we are going to solve a lot of land issues. Why was it so easy to get land for the plantation of cane sugar and mining exploitation? Why? Because there is institutional support. If we have institutional support for agrarian activities, for ethnic activities, I think it's going to be easier to solve this land conflict or issues. This is also related to the redesign of some institutions in order to strengthen democracy and the institutions themselves. We need to open a debate. It's actually taking place between the different communities at province level, but something is not working. So understanding this as collective reparation means we need to work locally and regionally with the ethnic and agrarian communities, and we need to hear them when we try to develop new policies related to our territory and our production models. Having access to the environment and to the land and to peace, I think those are good reasons to start doing this. We need to make local decisions. We need to be more legitimate. We need to strengthen our democracy, and if we want to do that, we need to have the participation of the corporations in the area. We need to have the government, academia, and everybody involved. And once we have that, we can come up with agreements related to territory initiatives, ethnic initiatives, and initiatives for other members of the civil society. Last but not least, as a result of these agreements, we need to have into consideration a very important element that Colombia and humanity as a whole has available to them today. Something that we know today that we didn't know before. Degrading our ecosystems is going to cause new conflicts, and is going to generate more poverty for the people in the areas. So in order to avoid this, we need to generate new territory ordering plans. We need to have different initiatives related to our deforestation. We do not have proper scientific support to make decisions. We do not have enough data. We don't take into consideration agrarian communities or ethnic communities. So we need to rethink our instruments in order to make them feasible and to make them actual. to generate sustainable territory, we need to overcome our lack of political will. Something that we need to take into consideration too is our water resources. They are part of our territory and they're part of our sustainability efforts. We have enough evidence on the consequences of climate change, weather change. If we want to have sustainable territories, if we want to have sustainable peace, we need to take into consideration water resources, our environmental focus. We need to use this as a focus in our generation of policies. These four conclusions are part of our victim and restitution law. Why can we think about our rural development models? Why can we make land restitution part of this? Thank you very much.